Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Jaya Ashta Sakhi Jaya Radha Madhav Jaya Ashta Sakhi Jaya Prahlad Nrsimha Jaya Prahlad Nrsimha Jaya Ananta Dev Jaya Prahlad Nrsimha Jaya Ananta Dev Jaya Panchatattva 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ashta Sakhi Vrinda Shriman Mahaprabhu ki, Ji Shri Prahlad Nrsimhadev Ananta Dev ki, Shri Panchatattva ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirannasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukhakaroti Vachalam Pangoram Gayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Mande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swami Nitinamine Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakata Damadaya Nagara Gramatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Good morning everybody. We're reading from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 17, text 16. Tava ādi-daityau sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī iva. Tava ādi-daityau sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī iva. Tava ādi-daityau sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī iva. Tava ādi-daityau sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte-śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī iva. Tava ādi-daityau sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī iva. Vaishnavis. Tava ādi-daityau sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī sahasā vyajyamānātma-pauruṣau vavṛdhāte śma-sāreṇa kāyenādri-patī. Word by word translation, if you like to repeat. Tau, those two. Ādi-daityau, demons in the beginning of creation. Sahasā, quickly. Vyajyamāna, being manifest. Ātma, own. Pauruṣau, prowess. Vavṛdhāte, grew. Aśma-sāreṇa, is that aśma? Yeah, it's aśma-sāreṇa, steel-like. Kāyena, with bodily frames. Ādi-patī, two great mountains. Iva, like. Translation: these two demons who appeared in ancient times soon began to exhibit uncommonly bodily features. They had steel-like frames which began to grow just like two great mountains. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There are two classes of men in the world. One is called a demon and the other is called a demigod. The demigods concern themselves with the spiritual upliftment of human society, where the demons are concerned with physical and material upliftment. The two demons born of Diti began to make their bodies as strong as iron frames, and they were so tall that they seemed to touch outer space. They were decorated with valuable ornaments, and they thought that this was success in life. Originally, it was planned that Jaya and Vijaya, the two doorkeepers of Vaikuṇṭha, were to take birth in this material world, where, by the curse of the sage, they were to play the part of always being angry with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As demoniac persons, they became so angry that they were not concerned with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but simply with the physical comforts and physical upliftment. Translation, if you like to repeat one more time. These two demons who appeared in ancient times soon began to exhibit uncommon bodily features. They had steel-like frames which began to grow just like two great mountains. Wow, this is no science fiction here. We're not talking about some fictional superheroes. This is real. This is history. So this is a historical documentation of what has been happening. At the same time, it's not just a historical documentation, because we could look at this verse from a perspective of, okay, this is what happened, this is Hiranyakashipu, this is what Hiranyaksha. But when we look at the word-by-word translation, there are some key words here, and we'll be focusing on key statements of Srila Prabhupada as well in this class. So, the key words are, anybody can guess? The first key word here is sahasā. What does sahasā mean? Quickly. Quickly. Speed is very much welcome in this material world. It's even celebrated. The faster you are, you have to catch up with any kind of job that you do. At the same time, it's not all good, as we can see in this verse. Being quick is not equivalent to being truly successful, because pride goes before the fall. The second key word we'll be touching upon today is the word pauruṣau. What does pauruṣau mean? Prowess. Again, power. Who doesn't want power? Everybody desires that power. Like Kunti Devi says that Krishna is not impressed by power. At the same time, here we see that having so much power, they were just powdered to dust at the end. So what does these statements tell us? Srila Prabhupada makes some very key principles First of all, the demigods concern themselves with the spiritual upliftment of human society, whereas the demons are concerned with physical and material upliftment. So again, the problem, the theme in this is the bodily concept. What is the bodily frame? The frame, the body, the identification with the body. Aham mameti. That's the subject matter of this verse. And the bodily concept of life is not the problem. It's the mentality of misusing this prowess, of misusing this sahasā. So today we will explore how that demon and the demigod is within our mind. It's not just an external thing, it's not just Hiranyakashipu externally, there's the Hiranyakashipu within me. So one thing is buddhi, the intelligence is actually part of the transformation of ego. This is the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapila Dev explains how we may think intelligence, that should be sattva guna. Because they are using their intelligence here to experience a heightened level of bodily concept, increasing their bodily frame. So what is wrong? How can intelligence be in rajas? Because it seems more like the mind is in rajas. Intelligence sattva, right? Like common sense it feels like. But no, third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam explains how buddhi, which is actually the transformation of ego in passion. And when we use that buddhi to control the material nature, then we create problems for ourselves and others. Because I was studying a little bit about this, how buddhi, the transformation of the ego, is what creates the tanmatras, the transformations, the connection with the environment, the 10 senses and the mind, that is comes into place. So the transformation of the ego. So the ego is the theme of today's sub-theme. Shastra, scriptures, they are not here to punish us, because sometimes we are afraid, oh my God, Bhagavatam class, again, don't do this, don't do that. So it's not here to punish us. So I was thinking, Shastra is here to actually save me. It's here to actually hold up a mirror to me and say, hey, watch out, there may be a little Hiranyakashipu inside your brain, so watch out for that. So this verses shows the problem. I'm going to say me. If it refers to you, you can take it. If it doesn't refer to you, don't take it. So sometimes I'm thinking how the demoniac mentality of using power, there is a part of me, it may not be the whole me may not be Hiranyakashipu, but there's a part of me. You've ever seen this Napoleon mentality sometimes in our temples? Have you seen leaders getting into trouble because of this prowess being misused? Have you seen devotees who get a little title and they think that they're the emperors of the universe? So this is the mentality that the paurusha, the intoxicating ego, that covers my vision of what is the actual purpose of it. Again, the prowess is not the problem, it's the mentality. And for a reason, Srila Prabhupada called the International Society for Krishna consciousness, because that consciousness aspect is so important, to constantly look at what is my intention, what is my motivation. And in this context, I was thinking of the word, there are key words, right? The bodily frame, and then the strength. One section is Duryodhan, right? If you know the verse, sing along with me. Anye cha bahava shura madarte tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. This is Duryodhan using his prowess, telling that all these great personalities like Bhishma and Dronacharya and Karna, they are all here to give up their life for my sake. So this is the mentality here, the mentality of the prowess, which is, how do you call it, misused, basically. And then he doesn't stop at that, because he again compares his army to the army of Pandavas, and there the strength aspect comes. What does he say? Aparyaptam tadasmakam bhalam bhishmabhi rakshitam tadasmakam. Means the words are very key here. Paryaptam tvidame tesham balam bhimabhi rakshitam. So what does the word aparyaptam mean? Thank you. Immeasurable. So Duryodhana's perspective is our army is immeasurable. But Prabhuji, Sanskrit scholar, he also said there's another word meaning. Also means not enough. Not enough. It's kind of like we are at lack here. And then paryaptam tidame tesham. Their army is limited. Paryaptam. But paryaptam also means enough. So there's always a double-edged sword to power. We can either use it to uplift us, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, or we can downgrade us. I wanted to bring up this purport of the third canto, chapter 23, text 2. This is Srila Prabhupada speaking about the psychology, the bodily frame of male and female, because it's very relevant for our everyday life. We'll be touching upon husband and wife family relationship. Maybe you're a leader to a group of people and how this mentality could be getting in the way. And we'll speak about our organization in general. So Prabhupada says, a man's psychology and a woman's psychology are different. As constituted by bodily frame, a man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman, as bodily constituted, is naturally inferior to her husband. Thus, the natural instinct is that husband wants to post himself as superior to the wife, and this must be observed. Okay, Prabhupada goes on and on how Vishrambhena with intimacy, and Prabhupada beginning of this purport says the word friendship. There has to be friendship between the husband and wife, and in the end, thus the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. Damena cha, a wife has to learn to control herself even if there's misunderstanding. And sweet speech, vacha madhurya. So he says, in home life, he must be treated by his wife with sweet words. So the point is this, that friendship needs to be cultivated. I have a client, they're going through really difficult patch in their married life. Both are initiated devotees. And the husband is very shastrik. And the person always slaps this verse on the wife's face. Says, you're supposed to tolerate, you're supposed to. And after a few years now, the wife wants to divorce. Because this principle is not that the friendship is automatic. It needs to be earned. It needs to be cultivated. In the mentality not like that of Duryodhana, not like that of Hiranyakashipu, because everybody was terrorized by Duryodhana and Hiranyakashipu. It is said that Hiranyakashipu used to tie the planets to his throne, literally. So he wasn't afraid of Rahu and Saturn, unlike me. So that fear aspect is not there. Yet, a man who cannot offer friendship to his wife, or a leader who cannot encourage and protect the enthusiasm of his followers, is as insecure as anybody can be. So the Shastric perspective is not to put the principle of superiority as if, like, the concept of superiority, Prabhupada is speaking here, is a problem. If you study English, when you say superiority complex, it's a negative thing. It's not a positive thing. Somebody has superiority complex if they have a need to prove themselves right all the time. If they have a need to always like put the others down, there's something wrong in them spiritually speaking. So we have to look at this principle even within our communities. There can be situations where the prowess, the pauruṣau, and the sahasā can be misused. For example, pushing devotees to, that was our past, within our movement, we've done our mistakes, and we can be vulnerable to learn from our mistakes that maybe leaders made followers do wrong things. Or leaders or husbands pressurize the wives to be submissive without offering friendship. So what can we actually learn from this whole perspective that behind superiority complex is actually, like here Prabhupada says, they were decorated with valuable ornaments and they thought that this was success in life. These days is iPhone. Those days it was gold ornaments. They didn't have iPhones to show off back then. So he would show off with whatever he had. And that was gold ornaments. So it can be the same of whatever it is that is connected with our body. It could be power, it could be position. Let's go into Kunti Devi's verse we're here, because she really speaks about why power corrupts. In itself, these Janmaishwarya Shrutashi Vedamana Madapuman Naivarhatyam Abhidhatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. So Kunti Devi is saying that being proud excessively of one's birth, being too attached to prowess, to be too attached to one's beauty, to become too identified with one's knowledge, all these things are what? It's a trap. Janmaishwarya Shrutashibir Edamana Madampuman. Janmaishwarya Shrutashibir is not the problem. Edamana Madapuman is the problem. Means the pride, excessive pride, the illusion to think that I am learned, I have a steel body. So today we can introspect a little bit within ourselves and see what is my steel body that I am attached to. Probably it's not the steel body. It's something else. Even it may not be the gold ornaments. It may be something related to Janma, Aishwarya, whatever it is that we value as wealth and power. Maybe it's our learning. Maybe it is our beauty. Beauty is also this pauruṣam here. Steel-like body is also beauty. So we can look at this, and I wanted to actually bring up this point. In modern psychology, because I studied psychology, there are 3 concepts that really parallels to this pauruṣam and this Duryodhana mentality. One is called hubris syndrome. I don't know how many of you heard this. So the hubris syndrome, in dictionary meaning of it, is excessive pride or self-confidence. It is a condition where people in power start believing they are always right, superior, or even infallible. So in modern context, it's very easy to label Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. They had the hubris syndrome. They are narcissists. So in a example, relevance to our movement today, maybe I become a manager and then I don't want to listen to anybody's idea. Why? Because I think I'm the manager, I am right, I know everything. The Shruta power, the Shruta bodily concept. And then, or temple, maybe I become a temple leader and I think that I'm the only one who knows what Krishna wants. Has happened, right? Unfortunately for us, there have been situations in our movement where this complex played out badly. There's another one called Dunning-Kruger effect. That's another psychological personality defect. It's a psychological effect where people with low ability overestimate their skills. They don't know enough to realize they don't know. Basically, they don't know that they don't know. Example, maybe I read a book, new book, and now I give a lecture on that topic as if I'm an expert on that matter. Or I may learn one kirtan tune and I become very proud and I think I'm the best kirtan leader. Or one Bhagavatam class and I think that I know Shastra. So all these modern concepts, even narcissism. Narcissism is a big one. I've been researching about this. And Gita, Bhagavad Gita, of course, Krishna warns, Bhagavad Gita 3:27. He says, what does he say? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvash ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So that is the bodily frame which is off. What is it? That ahankara vimudhatma, to think that I am the doer, I am the possessor, I am the controller, I know best. And it is pure illusion. It's so easy when we look at the theory of these things, but daily, every day, if I look at myself at the end of the day and I say, how much of this philosophy did I truly apply, and how much of it did I just speak on the Vyasasan? As soon as I get out, then I'm like throwing the sand on my back again like an elephant. How much of it? And only I can answer that question, because externally I can be very like this bug. It was staying on the front of the chariot, experiencing the wind and the speed, and he was convinced that he was driving the chariot. That bug is sometimes me, sometimes us. And Nalakuvara and Manigriva, another example, who became intoxicated with that pauruṣam. They were intoxicated with pride because of their bodily frame, of their janma, of their aishwarya. And Kunti Devi says, Krishna prefers akinchana. He actually prefers somebody who's materially exhausted, somebody who's humble. Arey Baba, then what about Ambarish Maharaj? He had janma aishwarya shruta shibir, right? Parikshit Maharaj, he was also wealthy. Prabhuji, why are you telling me to give up everything? Why should I? Actually, we are not. We are not. You think Arjuna was not muscular? He wasn't going to the gym or working out? So that is not the problem. But the pride attached to it is the trap. So we are not like cultish. We don't want to be. We could very easily become. But we don't want to be a cultish people who demonize people who take care of their body. We are not against people who take care of their health. I know like a particular Shastra teacher, throughout the teaching, the person kept emphasizing how idiotic it is to go on walks and to go to the gym and to take care of all these things. Why do you need all that? That can actually hamper the faith of people that we are bringing Krishna consciousness to. So we are not going extremes. We are not denying the scriptural principles, but we are trying to go deeper and understand the context, the source of why is scriptures telling me that. If scripture is saying that I can transform that energy, there is no harm in admitting that I have a trouble. The problem is never the problem, right? The problem is when I don't admit that I have a problem. Okay, so that's Kunti Devi. Going further, I want to quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto. There was this man. It's really like that romantic tale which ends in a tragedy. So there was this man in the Atala planet who ends up thinking he's in power. Why? Because he gets deluded. How? A man enters the planet of Atala. These women immediately capture him and induce him to drink an intoxicating beverage made with a drink known as hataka. This intoxicant endows the man with great sexual prowess, of which the women take advantage for enjoyment. A woman will enchant him with attractive glances, intimate words, smiles of love, and then embraces. In this way, she induces him to enjoy sex with her to full satisfaction. And this is the key here. Because of his increased sexual power, a man thinks himself stronger than 10,000 elephants. Steel body. That's like, considers himself most perfect. Indeed, illusioned and intoxicated by false pride, we all know what happens in the end, we've seen in the movies. He even goes to an extent of thinking himself as God, ignoring the impending death. Scary stuff. So I was telling my mind today, don't avoid Shastric injunctions which describe these things and think of it as a punishment. See this as a saving grace that's preventing me from falling into a deep dark hole. Andhayathandhairupaniyamas tepi shatantryamurudhamni bhadda. Prahlad Maharaj says that the deep dark hole of attachment, of thinking that I can control my partner, I can control the people who are under me. There was a leadership sangha, and one leader raised the hand and asked the question to the speaker. Said, "Excuse me, Prabhu, I have a question. Please tell me, this congregation, do they belong to the temple president or they belong to the guru?" This is a very, very serious question. And the speaker is like, "They don't belong to you, they belong to Krishna." So sometimes there is this mentality to think that if I become a Bhagavatam speaker or I become a leader, that I somehow take a position of authority which is equivalent to being a demigod. But the tip is ABC, ABC of Krishna consciousness. I am always a child before Krishna. If I can serve in that mindset as a husband or a wife, as a leader, as an organization or within the community, that we are assistants. The concept of servant leader is not just for mouth say mouth service. It's actually the mentality that I am a servant of Krishna, I'm a child of Krishna. What does a child know? Maximum it can help the father with bringing a glass of water. What more can a child do? Even in astrology, there are planets which are baladi avastha, means the baby, they're babies. So even if the planet is placed exalted, but if the planet is a baby, cannot do great favors. There are planets which are yuva, means they're youth, and some planets are mrita, means dead. So we have to actually see, in my understanding of Krishna consciousness, in my understanding of my buddhi, intelligence, transformation of passion, how much am I like Indra? How much am I like Duryodhan? How much of the mentality of Hiranyakashipu? And how much am I like Ambarish Maharaj? How much am I like Parikshit Maharaj? And we have everyday tests. Krishna doesn't leave us without tests, so we can be sure of that. Okay, I do have a few more points, but I think we can open the room for discussion. If anybody has any comments, questions, we can take that. Everybody is very humble, but no need to be too humble. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for the class. Here, Prabhupada is saying in the purport, whereas the demons are concerned with physical and material upliftment. So, the demons, the demoniac society, they create a system so that they can do this, like physical and material upliftment. So, we as a spiritual organization, like suppose the judicial system is there for a material demoniac society. This will be all based on physical and material upliftment. So, we as a spiritual society, do we take teachings or learnings from them? Like, it's a well-established system, but it is a demoniac system. So we as a spiritual organization, we are growing and we cannot accept their laws which they make in the judicial system as the good side or following the Lord's law. So how do we as a spiritual organization follow our principles like varnashram and everything, and that judicial system doesn't overcome us and we follow the judicial system as our rules? You know, like we are also following the law, we are good. It's not that, you know, it can be sinful also. So how do we as a spiritual organization, you know, safeguard ourselves from that influence of that judicial system?
Okay, thank you. Very relevant question. So I'll repeat the question just so it's clear. So you're asking, there is the material world which focuses on material upliftment, and they have systems and rules and structure in place. And we as a spiritual organization, we have our Srimad Bhagavatam and Shastram, that is for 10,000 years, as Srila Prabhupada said. You didn't say that, but so how do we protect ourselves from getting influenced by this materialistic mentality and apply our spiritual principles? Very good question. I mean, I have like 3 points that comes to my mind, but I would request the audience to add in. First of all, Yukta Vairagya. This microphone is definitely material upliftment, the result of technological advancement, right? And this, many things are. The camera that we are watching, the YouTube and the internet and Wi-Fi, it's Yantra Vidya, which Krishna advised Arjuna not to accept. When Maya Danava offered it to him. Somehow we have it. We have it. Can we use it in Krishna's service? If I have a strong body, I can lift 10 mridangas at a time. It's a good deal, right? You have one person who can bring you 10 mridangas for the kirtan. It's a good deal. Can it be used in Krishna's service? Yes. But how much we become identified and dependent on it needs to be analyzed in Sattva Gun, Rajas Gun and Tamas Guna. So either to accept or reject an external structure, which is administrative or legal structure, I can see it in Tamas Guna, all this is nonsense, I don't care, I'll do whatever I want, and then we'll end up in prison. I don't care, you know, we'll get my daughter married at 13. Police will come to your house and take you, right? Or if I try to follow polygamy, because you know, Shastra says we will end up in prison. So there are certain structural rules and regulations of the legal jurisprudence that we have to follow if we want to function in this society. Just like this body, I want to fly but I can't. So there are some limitations. Second is the 4 defects. We also are impacted by it. And I was thinking how within a religious organization, forget about material world. If you go and look in Facebook, sometimes devotees arguing with each other, throwing snowball fights of Prabhupada quotes at each other. Because I think my knowledge is better. I think I know Prabhupada better. So we take like apparently contradictory statements of Srila Prabhupada and we are fighting amongst each other. So I would say before we even apply whether or not how much to not be influenced by law, can we create some harmony within ourselves? Then we are, I would say, qualified to truly be be in a sattva-guna judgment of seeing what part of it is demoniac and what part of it is actually helpful. Unless we do that, we succumb to what we are experiencing today. I mean, there are domestic abuse cases happening in Mayapur. The man thinks that he is a strong body and he slaps the wife because he doesn't feel whatever he wants to feel. So when these cases are present with the initiated, I'm wearing my beads and I'm wearing my tilak and I'm chanting Bhagavatam and I'm chanting my 64 rounds on Ekadashi. But if I do not understand this basic concept of the paurusha or the sahasā qualities are not in itself great, and if I don't discriminate that within my spiritual life, do I think I'm qualified to discriminate? So it is demoniac and it's all mixed up, in Kali Yuga that creeps into our movement and it gets, but we cannot just blame materialistic people. They're minding their own business of andaya thandai rupaniyamanas. They're chewing the chew, as Prahlad Maharaj says. They're doing their business. Are we doing our business? So that's like an introspective point of view, but maybe on an organizational level, we have some devotees who have experience on the organizational level. If anybody likes to comment on that, Kante Prabhu, would you like to say something on this topic? Can we pass the microphone there? Because Kante Prabhu has served with the ISKCON organizational development, strategic planning team, and he has a lot of experience on the organizational level. Thank you.
Just a quick comment. We may criticize, and we should criticize, the materialistic civilization. At the same time, we should also recognize that in certain areas of ethics, morals, law, they are much more advanced than us sometimes. Because they have, as a society, and of course, different parts of the world have different caliber of values. But in general, those we consider more civilized societies, they have some values in connection with, say, for instance, judicial proceeding. They have some strong principle, like, for instance, due process. If you accuse somebody of something or whatever, the person must be given the right to defend himself or herself. There are certain principles that are very, very clear in the mind of materialists. And sometimes, and I want to stress, sometimes we see that the same principles of universal justice, they're absent in our society. I know episodes in which devotees have been punished or even banned without giving them the chance to explain themselves. They were just accused and sentenced. So, we, in certain areas, we have a lot to learn from the material world. Because they have been at this for thousands of years. And we have been at what we are doing since a couple of generations. And there are people who have values. They may not share all our values, but we need to recognize that there are many people who have very healthy values and principles. The same principle that sometimes in some of our communities, they're not yet assimilated.
Yeah, I think this perspective is like the sattva guna of trying to see what principle are we talking about, which law are we talking about. Rajasic would be to completely throw the baby with the bathwater. Now, tamas would be to get in trouble. Rajas would be to think I am superior. Anything material is wrong. That is also not very Krishna conscious. But sattva guna is to discriminate. You know what example comes to my mind? Srila Prabhupada was recording bhajan one time. And then the recording devotees asked him, would you like this beat or would you like it to be that beat? And Srila Prabhupada said, you are the expert, you decide. I only sing, you give me the direction. And in another instance, Srila Prabhupada went to a doctor and that doctor told him, Srila Prabhupada, by the way, materialistic doctor, completely MBBS, he just studied he was just doing physical and material upliftment, that kind of a doctor. And when Prabhupada visited him, that doctor told him, you should walk. And Srila Prabhupada made sure to take morning walks since then for almost forever. So the point is again, intelligence, sattva guna, discrimination. To discriminate between being sattvic in rejection, sattvic in acceptance. No, that's some devotee. Thank you so much. Yes, I think yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nice to hear your class. One question since Rastas, which is always in my mind. This divorce is not accepted in Vedic culture, as far as I know. Husband, wife, once they are married forever. But this, I'm seeing this is creeping into community. Okay, materialist community leave it, but even the devotee communities, these divorces are coming out very frequently. They say this Krishna, see, the prime focus is on Krishna consciousness. If you are protecting the Vedic culture, if you are following Vedic culture, then both the husband and wife has to live with all the difference of opinion and with arguments and all these things, unhappiness, but their Krishna consciousness will be somewhat affected. Whereas if they divide, I don't know how much they get married to someone else, they are breaking the Vedic culture. But I don't know how much they'll go in Krishna consciousness. Where we should draw the line, the border, whether we should also protect the Vedic culture, also protect our Krishna consciousness. It's a very tricky matter. How do we draw the line?
Draw the line between?
Following the Vedic culture.
Yes.
Same time you continue our Krishna consciousness, protect our Krishna consciousness.
So how is that contradictory? Because
it's contradictory because the husband and wife, they don't get along, always having arguments, then where you have time to chant? Your mind will not be peaceful.
Okay, okay.
You can't do your sadhana properly, either side. So, should we break the culture for Krishna consciousness or it's very tricky things I just want to hear.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. It's a very controversial, tricky question about divorce. So within our organizations, among devotees, we see a lot of divorce happening. So the Vedic culture is against divorce, does not recommend divorce, it's condemned, it's not natural. Once married is forever, the bond is built. At the same time, there's a principle of Krishna consciousness as superior to the life of Grihastha life or experience of even Vedic culture. So Prabhuji is asking, where do you draw the line between couples whose Krishna consciousness is impacted by their conflicts? Am I right, Prabhu? Impacted by their conflicts so much so that they cannot practice their Krishna consciousness versus sticking to Vedic principles. Okay.
Mataji, just to add to it, if you can include my question also similar to this, I've also heard from one senior devotee, very scholarly senior devotee, that a woman, once she takes divorce, she can never go back to Godhead.
Okay. I didn't know that quote before, but we should add it to the Veda base. Okay, this is a very complex subject matter and it's 9 o'clock. I think I need at least another hour to speak of it from different perspectives. I will say it's not black and white. there are many nuances to this. We cannot, again, in tamas guna, we could say something like, this person is doomed forever. But in rajas guna, we may think, I am right, they are wrong. And in sattva guna, we have to study case by case. We cannot pass a judgment without truly understanding the circumstances, understanding their situation. Plus, there's always two sides to the story, right? There's two sides to Vedic culture. It's supposed to help us to perform our dharma. And as an astrologer, I have seen this happening. Couples come back next life together to process the stuff, if it is done in an immature way. And I have seen cases where it was important to not be together, not only for spiritual life, but in all perspectives. So this is not something we can just make a blanket statement. This is something we need to study deeply. But I do see that devotees sometimes have even more expectations than karmis when it comes to marriage. I'm marrying a devotee, that person will be A, B, and C, and D, and they realize that, oh my God, actually compatibility literally means my anarthas are compatible with their anarthas. Because one little anartha is incompatible, phew, firecrackers. So yeah, this is a very complex topic. I won't be able to do justice by giving that, but this I would say, please let's not be judgmental about people who go through divorce, because that's not helpful for us as a community. It's not it's not fair for them, and we don't know their karma, we don't know their situation. And second thing is, prevention is better than cure. Make sure that you clarify expectations, you have proper compatibility, work on your own anarthas, because I always say in my profession, because my expertise is in relationship compatibility, your capacity is more important than the compatibility. Potato, tomato, are they compatible? Can you make a sabji? Yes, you can make a sabji. But if the potato is rotten, can the sabji be the same? No. Similarly, compatibility is a great kitchen. But if you don't know how to cook, you cannot make anything, you cannot feed yourself. Have you seen the Brajbasi women? They make a fantastic meal with a hole in the ground. That's capacity. So even if there's not great compatibility, means great, super fantastic kitchen, even with a hole in the ground and few sticks, you can feed yourself and your family, like we see in Brajbasi women's case. So we have to improve our capacity in Kali Yuga especially. Our gratitude, our working on our anarthas, respecting the other individual as a Vaishnavi and don't slap her. Basics. Like Prabhu said, material world are better with certain concepts of how to maybe treat your wife than sometimes with devotees, because devotees misapply in tamas guna certain purports of Srila Prabhupada. So last thing I'll say, Vedanta Sutra, right? Vedanta Sutra has the formulas. The third formula is Tattu Samanvayat, means to understand apparently contradictory statements in Shastra. That's the way we can truly progress as an organization, as a family, and as individuals. To not go extremes, but to have a proper balance. And we don't know what Krishna wants. So to be open, I'm a child of Krishna. That child may go through something and I may not understand it, but to be open that, okay, Krishna still loves that person. Yeah.
I just want to emphasize one thing, that you as a professional astrologer, what I have observed generally, encourage people not to divorce.
Absolutely.
For all the reasons. At the same time, when, say, somebody's life is in danger,
Correct.
when one's sanity is in danger,
Correct.
when the marriage is so abusive and violent, then sometimes may not be Vedic to leave that person, but it's also not Vedic to stay with that person, because self-preservation is the first law. So we shouldn't just quote Vedic culture for divorce. We should quote Vedic culture for everything.
Huh.
Because Vedic cultures that the top 3 varnas, they go to Gurukul. So this man who is now abusive, did he spend 20 years in Gurukul? Or he just, whatever, false education he went through, whatever contamination he has built. So let's not only think of Vedic culture at the time of divorce. There is so many things to build that Vedic culture. And about this quote, which I also never heard, this quote is very offensive. It's very offensive to the holy name. It's like saying assuming somebody made a mistake, that person, he or she, can never be purified. So it's a very offensive quote to the process of bhakti and to the power of the holy name.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.